The morning sunlight poured in through the expansive windows of our sleek apartment, casting a warm glow throughout the space. It was a morning that seemed to leap from the pages of a glossy magazine, flawless in every detail. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee danced through the air as James glided gracefully around the kitchen. He began each day in a deliberate manner, each action carefully considered, as though his existence unfolded like a narrative with distinct chapters to be completed. "Today's going to be a long one," he remarked, as he filled a sleek ceramic mug with coffee. With a whirlwind of meetings ahead, I made a commitment to Ted to dive into the quarterly report. I nodded, lost in thought, feigning attention, while my fingers lingered on the spine of a book that remained untouched. James had a knack for weaving intricate plans, crafting strategies, and untangling challenges with ease. He was a master in every endeavor he undertook. Recently, I began to sense a distance forming between us, an unseen barrier created by our daily patterns and rituals that we both seemed hesitant to confront. "How did you rest last night?" he inquired, his tone laced with heartfelt worry. "Sure," I responded, giving him a smile that seemed practiced. Within the confines of my thoughts, I found myself reflecting on the events of the previous week. Gathering around the table, the warmth of shared moments filled the air. The way Victor had looked at me, his gaze lingering just long enough to ignite a feeling within me that I couldn't quite grasp. His voice, rich and soothing, resonated with a subtle power that lingered in my mind long after our conversation. As the afternoon sun began to dip, I felt a pull to the gym, a place where countless tales of sweat and determination unfold. It was one of those rare spots where I could try to find some clarity, or at least make the effort. The steady beat of treadmills and the metallic chime of weights created a backdrop that enveloped my wandering mind, allowing me to drift into a different realm. As I was fine-tuning the settings on the machine, his voice suddenly broke through the silence. Looking for some assistance, I pivoted, and there he stood. "Victor, let me share a tale with you," clad in a simple black t-shirt that hugged his strong shoulders and charcoal gray sweatpants. He appeared relaxed yet poised, as though he was at home in any setting. "Of course," I replied, making an effort to maintain a calm demeanor. He shifted the weight for me, our fingers grazing each other for a fleeting moment. "It's important to ease into things rather than rushing in right away. Take your time to develop it." His advice was straightforward, yet the way he delivered it sent a thrill through me. We shared a few more words, courteous and careful. Yet the atmosphere surrounding us was thick with an unarticulated tension. He praised my posture, remarking on the way I exuded confidence, and I chuckled, feigning ignorance to the electric connection that flickered between us. As he turned to leave, I found my gaze lingering on him, warmth rising to my cheeks. What was I up to? The journey back was a haze of fragmented reflections. The cityscape rushed by my window, a vibrant tapestry of movement and hues. I held onto the steering wheel with a firm grasp, as if anchoring myself could prevent my thoughts from swirling out of control. What was it that drew me to him? Could it have been the confidence in his demeanor, so natural and unforced? Or was it the silent connection in his gaze, as if he could perceive aspects of me that even I was unaware of? I sighed inwardly, chiding myself in the quiet of my thoughts. It was just a fleeting instance, a brief pause in time. Victor was my stepfather, a title earned through circumstance rather than blood. Yet that detail did little to quell the tumult of my thoughts. Upon my arrival, I found James seated at his desk, deeply engrossed in the glow of his laptop screen. He glanced up for a moment, sharing a friendly smile with me. "What tales do you have from your workout?" "Well?" I replied, mustering another grin. I felt the urge to share it all with him, to reveal this unexpected and mysterious pull I felt, and to hear him soothe my worries, assuring me it meant nothing. But how might I even acknowledging it seemed like a deep betrayal, so I held back my thoughts and embraced the familiar ease of our routine, attempting to reassure myself that it sufficed. Yet beneath the surface, a part of me was already anticipating the next encounter with Victor. The air buzzed with lively chatter as the family gathered around the table for another dinner together. The sounds of laughter and the cheerful clinking of glasses filled the air, creating a cozy atmosphere, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in my own home. The evening unfolded under the careful guidance of my mother, Megan, showcasing her usual flair for detail. All was as it should be. At first glance, one might think so. I wandered into the kitchen, seeking a brief escape from the glossy exchanges about getaways, career advancements, and the perfect wine matches. As I filled my glass with water, an unmistakable energy filled the room, hinting at his arrival. Even before he stepped into view, Victor entered the room, each step purposeful, yet blending seamlessly into the surroundings. He possessed a unique ability to captivate others effortlessly. Finding a way out of the throng, he inquired, his tone rich and soothing. I nodded acutely, aware of how the fabric of my dress embraced my skin beneath his watchful eyes. I mentioned that I could use a little time away, attempting to keep my tone light. He rested against the counter, arms folded, as if waiting for a tale to unfold. That hue really compliments you. Unleashes your inner strength. A seemingly innocent remark, light and unassuming, yet the manner in which he expressed it, accompanied by a subtle smile that hardly illuminated his eyes, sent a chill coursing through me. I averted my gaze, feigning a need to fiddle with my glass. Do you often pick up on details like that? I inquired, trying to keep things cheerful, only when they capture attention. He replied, his gaze unwavering. The space felt more confined, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words. In that moment, I yearned to weave a clever remark, a thread of humor to lighten the atmosphere, yet my thoughts eluded me. The air was thick with an unvoiced connection, a spark that neither of us could ignore. The evening unfolded slowly, and when the moment to depart finally arrived, I exhaled a breath of relief. The crisp night breeze brushed against my skin as I ventured outdoors, enveloping myself in my coat. Victor showed up shortly after, extending an invitation to accompany me to my car. It was a small act, seemingly insignificant, yet my heart raced with a whirlwind of emotions. You seemed a bit reserved tonight, he remarked as we approached my car. Is everything all right? With a moment of uncertainty, my hand lingered on the car door, feeling a bit worn out, I suppose. These dinners can be quite a journey. He nodded, moving in with purpose. I understand that. However, you mustn't allow it to bring you down. There's a certain glow that radiates from you. Lori, keep it shining bright. The way he uttered my name, gentle and close, was like a tapestry coming undone. I turned to face him, seeking a glimpse of meaning in his expression. Could it have been worry, wonderment? Perhaps a tale with a more shadowy essence. Victor V. I started, yet the words tangled in my throat. He extended his hand, lightly, grazing my arm, a gesture so delicate, yet filled with meaning. In the moments that preceded my thoughts, before I could truly grasp what was unfolding, he leaned in and our faces briefly touched. It was fleeting, a soft brush of lips that lingered like a secret waiting to be shared. Yet it sparked a fire within me that I couldn't hold back. I stepped away. My breath quickened, my thoughts swirling around me. With a heavy heart, he whispered an apology, his voice laden with sorrow. Or could it have been something entirely different? I really ought to have thought twice. Yet there I was, shaking my head, searching for my car keys in a flurry of thoughts. I must take my leave, I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. As I settled into the car, I felt the familiar grip of the wheel beneath my hands, a connection to the journey ahead. The city lights danced in a haze as emotions welled up, threatening to spill over. Can you believe what just unfolded? And why, even with the weight of guilt pressing on my heart, did I find myself yearning for it to unfold once more? Upon my arrival at home, I found James in the living room, immersed in the details of documents displayed on his laptop. As I entered, he glanced up, and his face brightened with that warm, reassuring smile I knew so well. Hey, how did the meal go? He inquired. All right, I said, letting my coat fall onto the back of a chair. Even I could hear the strain in my voice, yet he appeared oblivious to it. Or perhaps he decided against it. You look weary, he remarked, leaning down to plant a gentle kiss on my forehead. Why not take a moment to unwind? I'll wrap things up here. Indeed, a clever thought, I whispered, making my way back to the bedroom. As I perched on the edge of the bed, the night's events danced vividly in my thoughts. Victor's caress, his whispers, his embrace, they enveloped me completely. It was as if I found myself at the brink of an abyss, caught in a moment of hesitation, torn between retreating to safety or surrendering to the unknown. What's the reason behind that? I shared my thoughts with the silent space around me. What makes him special? What brings us to this moment? I found myself at a loss for words. In a heartbeat, the world as I knew it transformed completely, leaving no path to return. As I settled at my kitchen table the following morning, my gaze was fixed on my phone. In the stillness of the house, the only sound was the soft rustling of papers as James worked diligently in the study. My fingers lingered above the screen, caught in a moment of hesitation, as I weighed the decision to finally share the message I had meticulously crafted in my mind for hours. Hello, Victor? I found myself reflecting on the events that unfolded. Perhaps we could share some thoughts. No, that's a bit too straightforward, Victor. I have a question for you regarding the family dinner. It's quite apparent. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally chose a more secure path. Hello, Victor. I just remembered there's something important about Mom's holiday plans that I didn't share. Shall we gather for a conversation? It was unclear, seemingly harmless. That's the narrative I crafted for myself. I pressed the button, my heart racing as I anticipated the moment the dots would show up. As soon as his reply arrived, it was swift and to the point. Absolutely, just give me a shout when you have some time to chat. In a cozy little cafe, tucked away on the serene side of the city, our paths crossed. It was a destination I selected with purpose, away from the comforts of known companions. When I walked in, Victor was already there, cradling a coffee cup in his hands, while his eyes danced over the menu. As I drew near, he glanced up, maintaining a calm facade, yet his eyes betrayed a hint of an unspoken tale lurking beneath the surface. Hey, Lori, he welcomed me with a nod, pausing for a moment before gesturing for me to take a seat. What tales do you have to share? His tone was relaxed, yet the gravity of our previous meeting lingered in the air, creating an unspoken tension. With a moment of uncertainty, I found myself toying with the handle of my bag. Before speaking impulsively, I felt it was important to address the situation after. Victor's lips curled into a half-smile. Are you referring to the moment after the kiss? The way he expressed it with such certainty and boldness sent a thrill through me. I turned my gaze, a warm flush creeping across my face. It was a mistake, I said, but the weight of those words lingered in the air, echoing with uncertainty. Could it have been, he inquired, leaning in a bit closer. His voice was soft and unwavering, captivating me even against my better instincts. It must be, I said, trying to reassure myself more than him. You're my stepdad, he completed my thought. Indeed by title. But you and I both understand that there's more to it than that. I tried to speak up, but the words eluded me. In that moment, his hand lightly grazed mine as he extended it toward his cup. It unfolded with a quiet intention, each moment crafted with care. The touch sent a chill through me, and for an instant the surroundings faded away. Victor. I started retracting my hand. This is not a possibility. It's not right. And yet, here we find ourselves. He spoke with a straightforwardness that invited curiosity. The stillness that enveloped the room was heavy with unspoken words. I rose suddenly, feeling the urge to flee before I uttered or acted in a way I might regret forever. Text. I should go, I said, clutching my bag as if it held the weight of my next adventure. Lori Victor's voice trailed after me, gentler than before. You have the choice to continue the facade, or you can face the reality, even if it's just within your own mind. As I made my way home, I could feel the weight of his words, trailing behind me, echoing in my mind. At home, James sat with a bottle of wine, his smile filled with anticipation. He suggested a serene evening for just the two of us, pointing to the elegantly arranged dining table. I managed to smile, giving a nod as I took off my coat. That sounds delightful. As the night unfolded, I struggled more and more to keep my attention sharp. James shared the tale of his day, weaving in the arrival of a new client at work and his exciting plans for the weekend. I answered when asked, yet my thoughts drifted away, returning to the cafe, reliving each word, each look, each brief contact. You're rather silent this evening, James noted, extending his hand across the table to grasp mine. His touch was warm and familiar, yet it was missing the spark that I found myself longing for. Exhausted. I fibbed, withdrawing my hand to pour another drink. He held back, yet the worry in his gaze was unmistakable. As the evening drew to a close, he leaned in his intentions clear, but I turned my face just enough for his lips to softly graze my cheek instead. He paused, retreating slightly to observe me closely. Is everything all right? He inquired. Absolutely. I responded without hesitation. There's been so much swirling around in my thoughts lately. He nodded, yet his face told a different tale, one of lingering doubt. As he switched off the lights and settled into bed, I lingered, gazing at my silhouette in the shadowy window. What was the matter with me? James embodied all the qualities I should desire. He was kind, stable, and devoted, yet despite my disdain for myself, I found it impossible to avoid drawing parallels between him and Victor. His certainty wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, while Victor's unpredictability danced in the air, sparking excitement and wonder. The weight of guilt pressed down heavily, yet it couldn't drown out the persistent thought that emerged, no matter how fiercely I attempted to banish it from my mind. I craved for something greater. The lively restaurant buzzed with excitement as servers weaved through tables and the chatter mingled in a harmonious blend of urban existence. I sat across from Emma, swirling my glass of water, lost in thought, as she began recounting yet another tale of her latest misadventure at work. Her voice, usually rich with irony and cleverness, hardly made an impression on me. "Are you truly paying attention?" she inquired, her eyes narrowing with intrigue. Naturally, I fibbed, presenting a feeble grin. "Is there another tale about your boss acting like a dictator?" With a deep sigh, she shook her head, lost in thought. "It seems you've been lost in your own thoughts recently. What tales do you have for me today, Lori? Is there a storm brewing in blissful times?" With a moment of uncertainty, I found myself toying with the edge of the napkin. "No, everything's fine, just the usual tales of work stress." I suppose Emmy wasn't convinced yet. She chose to overlook it seamlessly, transitioning to her next subject. I listened intently, offering replies when needed. Yet my mind wandered to other tales waiting to be told. Or perhaps, on another individual, I caught a glimpse of him before he even noticed my presence. Victor sat at the bar, a picture of ease, his eyes wandering over the menu as he contemplated his choices. He wore a dark blazer over a crisp white shirt, drawing the eyes of everyone around him with an effortless charm. My heart raced, and I swiftly averted my gaze, wishing he wouldn't catch sight of me. "Hello, Lori! Are you there?" Emmy exclaimed, gesturing animatedly in front of my face. "You seem a bit lost in your own world." I assured them I was okay, yet the unexpected parched feeling in my throat revealed the truth. As Emmy rose to answer her phone, I thought about making a quick escape, but just as I began to collect my belongings, Victor strolled over to my table, a relaxed smile dancing on his face. "What a small world," he remarked, as he slid into the chair that Emmy had just left behind. "Would it be all right if I joined you, Victor?" I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "What brings you to this place?" As he leaned back in the chair, it felt like we were two old friends sharing a meal, exchanging tales of our day. "Do you think your friend will be okay with it?" I cast my eyes toward the entrance, where Emmy continued to express herself with lively gestures into her phone. "She won't be long," I remarked, my voice carrying an edge I hadn't meant to convey. Victor arched an eyebrow, a flicker of mirth dancing in his gaze. "Take it easy, Lori. I'm just here to share a few tales." We found ourselves in a dialogue that was effortlessly relaxed yet rich with deeper meanings. He inquired about my profession, my interests, and even about James. Every inquiry seemed like a challenge, his voice playful, yet his gaze intense. I aimed to maintain a calm demeanor, yet the atmosphere was thick with unspoken emotions. He observed her calm demeanor, his voice softening, yet curiosity lingered about the hidden depths she might be concealing. Just as I was about to say something, Em came back, casting a questioning glance at Victor. "Is that someone you know well?" she inquired. "Family," I uttered hastily, the term feeling strange as it rolled off my tongue. "Greetings, Victor. It's Emma here." They offered courteous nods, yet the atmosphere around the table had transformed. Emmy's presence acted as a shield, allowing our dialogue to remain comfortably light until she stepped away once more, this time to settle the bill. Once she was gone, Victor leaned in a bit closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You didn't mention you'd show up. Were you trying to steer clear of me?" "It's not what you think," I insisted, my heart racing. "This is merely fate," he concluded, a mischievous grin playing on his lips. "Yet there's something amusing about it, don't you think?" It's fascinating how frequently these unexpected connections occur. I sprang to my feet, clutching my bag tightly. It seems it's time for me to take my leave. Victor stood up alongside me, his face a mystery, waiting to be unraveled. Allow me to guide you on your way. The chill of the outside world sharply contrasted with the cozy embrace of the restaurant, nipping at my skin as Victor joined me on the path. As we arrived at my car, I turned to him, prepared to bid farewell, yet the words seemed to stick in my throat. His gaze locked onto mine, unwavering and resolute. And before I could catch my breath, I murmured, "This has to end." "Is that so?" he inquired, his voice a mere whisper. I began to voice my disagreement, but he moved in closer, his hand lightly grazing my arm, igniting a spark within me. In that moment, the distance vanished, and suddenly, his lips met mine. This moment was filled with boldness and freedom. His hands wrapped around my waist, drawing me nearer as the kiss intensified, sparking a fire within me that was impossible to contain. As we finally separated, I found myself gasping for air, my thoughts swirling in a whirlwind. Victor's expression held a blend of longing and an enigmatic shadow, an emotion I struggled to identify. "This isn't right," I murmured, my voice trembling. "It's not possible, yet we are," he interjected, "and acting as if we aren't won't alter the reality." I turned and slipped into my car, my hands clutching the steering wheel as I focused on calming my breath. As I glanced into the rearview mirror, I was met with the visage of a stranger, flushed, disheveled, and steeped in bewilderment. Upon my arrival, I found James there, holding a small gift box, anticipation written all over his face. "I had a little surprise for you," he said, his smile radiating warmth and sincerity. Within the confines of the box lay a fragile bracelet, an item that could have captured my heart in another time or place. "Thank you," I said, trying to infuse my voice with excitement. He enveloped me in his arms, yet rather than solace, an overwhelming tide of guilt surged through me. As he embraced me, his warmth accentuated the hollowness within a chasm I was certain Victor could bridge. That night with James peacefully resting beside me, I found myself gazing at the ceiling, reliving each detail of the kiss in my mind. I found myself drifting away, and the most troubling thing was I had no desire to turn back. Victor's invitation arrived like a surprise twist in a tale, yet I had been anticipating it ever since that moment we shared a kiss outside the restaurant. His message was crafted with the same meticulous attention to detail as always. "Gather around, and let's share some tales. It's a tale of your mother's aspirations for the holidays. Gather at my place tomorrow evening." It appeared functional and detached, merely skimming the surface. Yet I was aware of the truth. This was more than just the practicalities of family arrangements, and we were both aware of that. Even with the warning signs blaring in my mind, I unexpectedly nodded in agreement. His apartment was just as I had imagined it would be, elegant, contemporary, and flawlessly organized. A setting that mirrored his essence, measured and poised, yet infused with gentle hints of affection. A framed photo of him and my mother, captured during a vacation they had taken, hung on the wall. A vivid reminder of how misplaced this all felt. "Care for a drink?" he inquired as he began to fill a glass with wine. "Only water." I murmured, my tone softer than I had meant it to be. With a quizzical look, he silently passed me a glass and motioned toward the couch. I perched on the brink, my muscles coiled tight, gripping the glass like a lifeline. And so it started, my quest for the right words to share. "Did you share your plans for the holidays?" Victor reclined in the chair opposite me, his demeanor easygoing, yet his gaze was sharp and focused. "Is it necessary for us to act like that's the reason for your presence?" The question lingered, weighty and unavoidable. I tried to voice my objections, yet silence enveloped me. He leaned in closer, his elbows propped on his knees, his eyes locked onto mine. "Lori," he murmured, his tone a blend of warmth and authority, "what brings you to this moment?" I found myself confessing, the words spilling forth before I had a chance to hold them back. "I'm uncertain about my actions and the reasons behind them." "It feels genuine," he interjected, his voice calm yet compassionate, "because this time you're breaking free from the usual narrative." His words resonated in a way I was reluctant to admit. He had a point. Amidst the guilt and confusion that enveloped me, there flickered a spark of something undeniable, a feeling that had eluded me for far too long. "I can't do this," I murmured, my head shaking in disbelief. Victor rose to his feet and made his way across the room. Pausing just before reaching my seat, he remained at a distance, yet his aura enveloped me, stirring something deep within. "Then just say the word for me to halt," he stated plainly. I gazed up at him, my heart racing with such intensity that I felt certain he could sense it. As his hand grazed my cheek, the world around us faded, and in that fleeting instant, everything else vanished. His touch was gentle, nearly uncertain, yet it ignited a fire within me. "You should go," he murmured, his hand remaining still. "Would you like me to?" I inquired, my voice quivering with emotion. "No," he confessed, his thumb softly tracing my jawline. "However, I will if that's your desire." I found myself at a loss for words. Instead, I was caught in the moment, overwhelmed by unfamiliar emotions. The anticipation that had been simmering for weeks reached its peak as our lips finally met. There was a deep connection that unfolded between us. It was intentional, all-encompassing, and it allowed for no uncertainty. His hands found their way to my waist, drawing me nearer as the outside world faded away into nothingness. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, I felt acknowledged, wanted, and truly vibrant. As we finally separated, I found it impossible to meet his gaze. The burden of recent events clung to me, tightening its grip with every passing moment. The journey back felt like a whirlwind, with my hands firmly clutching the steering wheel. My knuckles turned pale as I struggled to make sense of it all. The weight of guilt descended swiftly, wrapping around like a heavy fog. Yet it was intertwined with a far more perilous sensation lurking beneath the surface, a feeling of yearning. As I stepped inside, I found James in the kitchen, lost in his own world, humming a tune while he busied himself with dinner preparations. He turned and smiled when he saw me, his face glowing with that comforting, reliable warmth I had come to cherish. As he made his way across the room, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss on my forehead. "You've returned sooner than expected. What tales do you have from your day?" With a mechanical nod, I responded, my gaze drifting away as I let my coat slide off my shoulders. "You've been putting in so much effort lately," he said, his voice laced with worry. "Let's create an adventure for just the two of us. How does that resonate with you?" "That sounds lovely," I murmured, my voice just a soft breath. Yet as the words left my lips, I sensed an ever-widening gulf forming between us. His warmth, his unwavering presence, they ought to have sufficed. They had always been that way in the past. Yet now they merely illuminate the turmoil within me. That night with James, peacefully sleeping beside me, I found myself wide awake, gazing up at the ceiling. My mind was a tempest of longing and remorse, embarrassment and thrill. I had ventured into territory from which there was no return, and the most challenging aspect I found myself uncertain about my desire to proceed. I promised myself I wouldn't go. I recited it over and over, each phrase, a fervent effort to ground myself in logic. Yet when his message arrived, it was straightforward and humble. "This evening, 8 in the evening. I longed to share moments with you. I was aware that I would be unable to hold back." When I finally reached his apartment, every ounce of my determination had faded away. The hallway stretched on like a winding tale, each step echoing with the rhythm of my heels on the gleaming floor as I neared his door. As Victor opened it, his face was a mask. Yet his eyes revealed a tumultuous depth, reflecting the tempest brewing within me. "You arrived," he remarked, moving aside to welcome me in. I nodded, lost in the moment, words escaping me. The apartment was softly illuminated, creating a cozy ambiance that felt genuine and unpretentious. He found himself unready for what lay ahead. It wasn't a mere allure. It was something much more perilous. We sat across from each other on the couch, the silence hanging in the air, thick and palpable. He offered me a glass of wine, yet I hardly took a sip. My fingers danced around the stem, a vibrant energy coursing through me. "You don't have to stay," he said at last, his voice soft yet resolute. "If you choose to go, I won't hold you back." "Are you hoping I should go?" I inquired, my voice quivering with emotion. He paused before responding. Instead, he leaned in closer, his elbows propped on his knees, as if ready to share a tale that had been waiting to be told. "I desire many things that are beyond my reach," he confessed, his eyes fixed intently on mine. Yet desire alone does not justify the action. I placed the glass aside and reclined my chest, heaving with irregular breaths. So what was the reason for your invitation? Because I'm weak. He confessed, his voice heavy with regret. And since I sense that you share the same feelings I do, his words pierced through the air, revealing layers of truth that left me feeling bare and open. I sensed the sharpness of tears at the corners of my eyes, yet I held them back with determination. Instead, I approached him, the space that separated us, vanishing in a heartbeat. Victor, I murmured, my voice trembling. He extended his hand toward me, gently cupping my face as though I were made of glass. The kiss that followed was bold and unreserved. It was a climax, a yielding. His lips were warm and persistent, and I let go of my doubts, letting the moment take over. It was as if time had slipped away unnoticed when we finally decided to part ways. Our bodies were intertwined, the cadence of our breaths creating a silent symphony in the stillness of the room. He wove his fingers through my hair, his touch gentle, yet laced with an emotion I struggled to identify. Maybe a hint of regret? You shouldn't have come, he murmured, his lips gently grazing my forehead. Nor should you have inquired. I replied, my voice a mere whisper. Victor let out a deep breath, drawing me nearer. I just can't continue down this path, Lori. It's not solely your fault. I share in this too. The path ahead is uncertain, yet I sense it leads to a dark place. For a fleeting instant, I allowed myself to embrace his words. I found myself envisioning a path back, a return to the life I had crafted with James, where this moment faded into nothingness, yet the notion echoed emptily, a falsehood I couldn't bear to accept. Do you wish you had done things differently? I inquired, my voice quivering with emotion. He paused before responding. Instead, he gently cradled my face in his hands and kissed me once more, this time with a deliberate slowness, as if he were savoring each moment, etching it into his memory. As he finally withdrew his gaze, held a depth of feeling that eluded my understanding. No, he said, his voice unwavering. Yet that's precisely what fills me with fear. The journey back felt heavy, the burden of our actions looming over me, each mile stretching out like a never-ending tale. I revisited that night, repeatedly in my thoughts, caught in a whirlwind of joy and the heavy weight of remorse that lingered. As I stepped inside, shadows enveloped the space and the darkness wrapped around me like a thick blanket. James had penned a note on the counter, stayed late at work, retired to bed early. Love you. The words pierced deeper than expected. I clenched the note in my fist, the emotions I'd been suppressing finally breaking free. I felt like I was living in two worlds, divided between two versions of who I am. I slipped into bed, taking great care to avoid disturbing James. He stirred slightly, his hand grazing mine as he drifted through dreams. The gesture was delicate, almost pure, and it shattered something deep within me. I gazed up at the ceiling, thoughts swirling in my head. I made a promise to myself that this had to change, that I couldn't continue down this path. Yet despite my longing to embrace the notion, a more shadowy aspect of my being was aware of the reality. I found it hard to say goodbye. The delicate fissures in my meticulously crafted exterior started to reveal themselves, and James, always perceptive, was the first to catch on. It began with the little moments. In the moments when I sidestepped his reach, the way my mind wandered during our exchanges, I've developed this intriguing habit of having my phone nearby, even when I'm in the comfort of our home. He remarked one evening as we settled into the living room that I seemed a bit distant lately. He shut his laptop and faced me, a deep crease forming on his forehead. Is all well? I put on a grin, pretending to be unfazed. Absolutely. There's so much swirling around in my thoughts. Life has been quite a journey lately. He nodded slowly, yet the uncertainty in his eyes was unmistakable. James had a way of holding back, and in that quietude lay a tension that spoke volumes, more haunting than any direct clash. It was a stillness that hinted at the brewing chaos just beyond the horizon. Victor and I kept exchanging messages, each one woven with subtle hints and unspoken narratives. It was a perilous adventure, one I ought to have abandoned long ago. Yet the excitement in his words, the bond I sensed with each buzz of my phone, was far too captivating to let go. One afternoon, amidst the flurry of messages from Victor and the constant ping of work emails, I overlooked a vital principle: Always erase it all. A solitary notification appeared, a glimpse of our hidden dialogue, lingering on the lock screen for just a heartbeat too long. James witnessed it unfold. The message was straightforward. This evening, the familiar place. The expression on James' face as he passed me my phone hinted at a deeper meaning. One that suggested he believed something different entirely. You received a message. He stated, his tone steady yet distant. Thanks, I responded, aiming to maintain a calm demeanor. As our gazes locked, an electric moment passed between us, hinting at the possibility of a confrontation. Yet he chose not to. In that moment, he chose to walk away, and I was left in solitude, my mind swirling with a whirlwind of thoughts. On the following day, Victor and I gathered in the park. It was a spot we had selected for its obscurity, a venue spacious enough to blend into the throng. He stood there as I approached, casually leaning against a tree, his hands tucked into his pockets. "You're late," he remarked, a playful lilt in his voice. Yet his face held a weight of sincerity. James caught sight of a message, and I couldn't help but spill the words, bypassing the usual niceties. Victor's jaw clenched, and he swept his hand through his hair, a silent narrative unfolding in his mind. What did he witness? Not much, I confessed yet. The gravity of what might have transpired lingered in the air around us. He let out a quick breath, looking around as if he feared someone might be listening in. "Lori, this situation is spiraling beyond control. This can't continue as it is." I stood still, his words striking me with an undeniable force. So this is the conclusion. We must pause before everything collapses. He urged, his tone resolute, yet tinged with sorrow. Before we unravel the whole tale, I moved in, a bit softening my tone. The moment has passed for that, Victor. Don't act as if you aren't experiencing it as well. This is something you can't simply turn your back on. His gaze became gentle, and for an instant he appeared as torn as I was. "You have no idea what hangs in the balance," he remarked, his head shaking in disbelief. "For the two of us, I completely grasp that," I retorted. "Yet I find myself holding on tightly to this. Do you find yourself in that state?" He remained silent. Instead, he took my hand, his touch uncertain, yet reassuring. "It's difficult to resist," he confessed, his voice soft and low. I grasped his hand tightly, my heart racing with anticipation. In that case, refrain from doing so. The quiet that enveloped us was heavy with the weight of untold fears and hidden longings. Yet we remained still. Despite all his talk of putting an end to things, I could sense he wasn't prepared to let go any more than I was. Upon my arrival back home, there was James patiently waiting for me. He lingered at the kitchen table, his face a canvas of mystery. As I stepped inside, a knot formed in my stomach. Yet he remained silent, merely giving me a brief, tight smile before vanishing into his study. The shadows that lingered around us deepened, and while he kept his doubts to himself, I sensed it was just a matter of time before the reality would emerge from the darkness. In a grand venue that echoed with elegance, the corporate gala unfolded beneath soaring ceilings, adorned with shimmering chandeliers, setting the stage for an unforgettable evening. James, with an air of poise and sophistication, embodied the essence of professionalism in his perfectly tailored suit. With a warm smile, he engaged in light-hearted banter with his colleagues, his charisma flowing naturally as ever. I lingered by his side, embodying the devoted partner. Yet my thoughts wandered far away. Once upon a time, Victor made his presence known in this very place. There he was, standing out amidst the throng, his aura captivating everyone around him. He lingered by the bar, weaving in and out of light-hearted exchanges with a circle of executives. In that fleeting moment, our gazes intertwined, and I felt a sudden pause in the rhythm of my breath. He remained expressionless, offering neither a smile nor a nod. A momentary look that conveyed a world of meaning, yet left so much unsaid. "Could that be Victor James?" inquired with a nonchalant air, his voice revealing none of the unease that stirred within me. "Indeed," I responded, maintaining a calm tone. "I had no idea he would show up here." James observed me intently, his face a canvas of mystery. "He shares his insights and experiences with the company." I personally extended the invitation to him. "Yeah." The realization crashed over me like a powerful wave, yet I managed to maintain a calm facade. "That's lovely," I remarked, lifting my glass of champagne to calm my racing thoughts. The evening unfolded, each moment resembling a beautifully crafted narrative. Victor and I danced around each other, the unspoken energy crackling in the air between us. Each unintentional look, each brief encounter seemed charged with energy poised to ignite something profound. James, with his keen eye for detail, appeared to be particularly engaged. His eyes held mine for a moment longer than usual, and his grin felt a touch forced. At one moment, I noticed him observing as Victor and I shared courteous nods from opposite sides of the room. With a piercing gaze, he remained silent. The tension thick in the air. "How are you holding up?" James inquired later, his hand gently placed on my back. Exhaustion washed over me as I responded, my smile barely lifting the corners of my lips. Today has felt like an endless journey. His silence hung in the air, heavy and oppressive, as if it were a story left untold. As the night unfolded, and we got ready to settle in, James's gaze fell upon the bracelet adorning my wrist. Once upon a time, there was a delicate piece, simple yet elegant, a gift from Victor that had found its way to me weeks ago. In the blur of the evening's happenings, I had slipped it on without a second thought, losing sight of its deeper meaning. "That's a lovely bracelet," James remarked, his voice steady and even. "Thank you," I responded, feeling my heart race. "What's the origin of that?" It was Emmy who handed it to me. In a moment of impulsiveness, I found myself uttering untruths, the phrases spilling forth before I had a chance to consider their weight. James lifted an eyebrow, a silent question hanging in the air. Yet he chose to remain quiet. He averted his gaze, yet I sensed the heavy burden of his doubt lingering in the air. The following morning, I discovered him in his study, gazing intently at his laptop. As I stepped inside, he raised his gaze, his demeanor serene, yet somewhat removed. "Would you like to share what's happening?" he inquired, his tone unwavering. "Could you clarify that for me?" I inquired, pretending not to know. He reclined in his chair, his gaze probing into my own. "I've been observing some intriguing details. Lori, you're lost in thought, you're far away, and now there's this bracelet. Are you certain that Emmy handed it over to you?" The moment of uncertainty lingered, and that brief silence was precisely what he required. He held back from probing deeper, yet I could sense the thoughts churning within him. That evening, while I was in the kitchen crafting a meal, James came over to me, with his hands resting on the counter. He stood there, a palpable tension in his stance. "I believe it's time for a conversation," he murmured, his tone soft and serious. I stood still, my heart racing wildly. "What tales shall we explore?" As he spoke, his gaze held mine, weaving a narrative that drew me in. "Let me share the real happenings with you." I parted my lips to speak, yet the words eluded me. Instead, I averted my gaze focused on the work before me and whispered, "Not tonight, James. I'm feeling worn out." His silence echoed through the air, and as he stepped out, I sensed the walls tightening around me. The clash was bound to happen yet. For the moment, I had managed to carve out a bit more time for myself. The fractures in our union had widened beyond repair, and with each fleeting second, I sensed the delicate equilibrium of my dual existence fading into the shadows. The real intrigue lay in how James would unravel the mystery of the truth. Once upon a time, the atmosphere in the house was thick with unease. James's piercing looks and weighty pauses conveyed more than any spoken language, and I sensed that a showdown was on the horizon. One evening, while I was tidying up the dinner table, he finally spoke up, shattering the quiet that had settled between us. "Lori," he started, his voice calm yet soft. "Is there someone else in your life?" The question, while anticipated, struck me with the force of a sudden blow to the heart. I faced him, gripping the edge of the counter tightly. Every instinct urged me to reject it, to safeguard the delicate fantasy we still clung to, yet I found myself unable to do so. The burden of my remorse bore heavily upon me, and the reality escaped my lips before I had a chance to contain it. "Indeed," I murmured almost inaudibly. James remained still. He remained calm and composed. Instead, he stood there, his expression a blend of acceptance and silent heartbreak. He finally spoke, his voice echoing with emptiness. "I've been aware for some time now. I simply wanted to hear it from you." His words wove a spell around me, leaving me in awe. I had anticipated a whirlwind of emotions with blame flying and voices raised, yet his tranquility was even more unsettling. It felt like he had already come to terms with my treachery, and that understanding weighed heavily on my conscience. I tried to speak to express my regret, but the words stuck in my throat. As James turned and exited the room, I was left in solitude, burdened by the heavy realization of my actions. The following day, Victor reached out to me. His voice carried a serene quality, yet beneath it lay an unmistakable hint of conclusion that I couldn't overlook. With a heavy heart, he announced his departure. I must move on, especially after all that has transpired, Victor. I started to say, but he cut me off. The chapter has closed, Lori. What was ours? It has faced too much destruction. Remaining in this situation would only lead to further complications. I found myself frozen, clutching the phone as his words washed over me. A part of me yearned to plead with him to remain to battle for the bond we shared. Yet beneath the surface, I understood he was correct. Our relationship unfolded like a fierce blaze, passionate and all-consuming, yet it left behind a trail of devastation. With a gentle tone, he expressed his remorse for it all. As the conversation drew to a close, a mysterious heaviness settled in my heart, leaving me with an unshakable sense of longing. The absence of Victor was akin to a piece of my soul being taken away, yet the weight of the guilt that came after was far more burdensome. The following morning, James gathered his belongings. He glided through the room, a silent storyteller of sorts, as he folded clothes and stacked books into boxes. Each movement, a chapter in his unspoken narrative. I lingered in the doorway, feeling my heart shatter with each piece he added to his suitcase. "You don't have to leave," I finally managed to say, my voice quivering with emotion. "Let's embark on a journey to find a solution together." He paused, gazing at me with a look that was simultaneously gentle and heart-wrenching. "Everything is just as it should be, Lori," he said softly. "What we once shared has faded away." Emotions surged within me as I observed him packing his belongings and sealing the suitcase with a final zip. "I'm sorry," I whispered, yet the words seemed to echo emptily. "So am I," he replied, his voice a gentle whisper, yet resolute. Yet an apology can't rewrite the past. With a suitcase in hand, he made his way to the door, ready to embark on a new journey. For a fleeting instant, I imagined he would reconsider, that he would utter a word, any word, to ease the weight of his leaving. Yet he chose not to. As he stepped inside the door, clicked shut, its sound reverberating through the stillness of the vacant home, I found myself on the couch, gazing at the spot where his suitcase had rested just moments ago. The stillness enveloped me, and in that moment, I truly grasped the gravity of my decisions. For the first time in weeks, Victor had vanished. James had disappeared, and I found myself solitary, tasked with navigating the remnants of the life I had shattered. As I surveyed the stillness of the house, it dawned on me that the liberation I had longed for so intensely now resembled a confinement. I once believed that chasing my dreams would complete me, yet it only led to my unraveling. The house echoed with emptiness in James's absence, each whisper of the stillness. I drifted through each room, restless and unsettled, as my thoughts echoed the journey that brought me here. The burden of my decisions pressed heavily upon me, and in that moment, I finally recognized the impact of my actions. Victor had vanished into thin air. James had vanished into thin air. I had pushed them both aside in pursuit of a transient thrill of something deeper. Now, amidst the remnants of what I once cherished, I came to understand the depths of my ignorance. The yearning for adventure, for that elusive thrill, had enveloped me. Reducing everything to mere remnants, I found myself perched on the edge of the bed, gazing into the void of the empty space next to me. James's side of the bed lay undisturbed, a chilling testament to his absence. The delicate aroma of his cologne remained on the pillow, a bittersweet reminder of what had slipped away. Emotion filled my gaze, yet I let it linger, unchallenged. I allowed them to slip away, embracing the ache that enveloped me. What was it that I had been seeking? I pondered that question time and again. Yet the answer continued to slip away from me. Could it have been the excitement of the unknown? The longing to experience a sense of belonging that James, despite his unwavering support and affection, was unable to fulfill? Or could it be something more profound? A void inside me that remains untouched by others? As the calendar pages flipped, weeks flowed into one another while I stood still a spectator in the unfolding drama of life around me. The world beyond was a cacophony of sounds and hues, yet I felt like a specter lingering in the echoes of my past existence. Friends reached out, worried about my silence, yet I chose to keep my distance. What tales could I share? How could I share the tale of the chaos I had created? One evening, I found myself seated at the dining table, surrounded by a collection of old photo albums, each one a portal to the past. As I turned the pages, memories unfolded. Our adventures, celebrations, and those serene moments forever etched in time. We had shared joyful moments, hadn't we? Or had I been deceiving myself from the very beginning? I shut the album, feeling a weight in my chest that made it hard to keep my gaze upon it. The burden of my remorse felt insurmountable, yet deep down, I understood that I couldn't remain in this state indefinitely. In the depths of the soul, a spark of determination started to emerge. The following morning, I gathered my belongings and stepped out of the house. Uncertainty loomed ahead, yet a strong urge pushed me forward, away from the familiar. The recollections in this place weighed down like a thick fog wrapping around me tightly. I embarked on a journey of self-discovery, seeking to uncover my true identity and clarify my desires for the future. I was aware that it wouldn't be a simple task. The journey before me was shrouded in ambiguity, laden with obstacles and memories I wished I could forget. Yet after a long stretch of uncertainty, a flicker of optimism began to emerge. Perhaps, just perhaps, I could start anew, a different journey than the one I once knew, yet filled with authenticity and fresh experiences. The journey ahead promised to be both arduous and solitary, yet it was a path I was destined to follow. As I ventured into the world, the atmosphere embraced me with a sense of lightness and liberation. The conclusion of a chapter I came to understand was merely a pause in the unfolding narrative. It was merely the dawn of yet another tale,